Sure. Thanks, Kathy, and thank you, Heron Information Center of Delaware, for hosting. As Kathy said, this is a really important topic because we know students are having a lot of needs, some that might be directly related to a IEP goal, some that might be a newly emerging need. So I know we're going to touch on both situations. But related to this first question, the process that districts and charter schools use is that as a student, I'm going to kind of talk about it from two standpoints. If your student has returned to school, and then also if your student has remained remote over the last year. So if your student returned to school, so for example, in Red Clay, most of our students returned to school in November of last year. Some of them actually returned to school earlier in October, depending on the program they were in. So as they returned to school, each of those students, we looked at their IEP goals and we collected data over a 6 to 8 week period to really look at, had we seen regression? So let's say, the student, a student has 5 IEP goals. For each of those 5 areas, they would be collecting data to say, okay, do we see that the student has regressed at all from where we expected them to be? So, I'm thinking about a student that I was working with where the student was supposed to be at the level of their 3rd benchmark on their IEP. And so we collected data and we compared that to where the IEP team thought they would be by that time period. And what we saw was for that student, he had 5 goals. In 2 of the areas, he was on track. He was trending with his benchmarks. But for 3 of the goals, he was way behind compared to what the IEP team had thought, where they thought he would be. So in that situation, the IEP team met. They had a revision meeting because his annual was not coming up for another few months. So they had a revision meeting. They looked at those 3 goals where he was behind, and then they discussed the recovery services. And I know we're going to talk more about that, the process of actually determining how much and all of that. But they looked at the level of needs. So they said, okay, if we thought that he was going to be at this level, but we're seeing that he's actually further behind, maybe he's had regression or maybe he just wasn't making progress during remote learning, then they made a decision that in this case, in this student's case, for 3 out of his 5 goals, they added recovery services.